Well, as Doug just mentioned, underscoring those tensions, Russia vetoing a resolution at the United Nations Security Council that condemns Syria's deadly chemical attack. China, which usually sides with Russia, actually abstained, a sign perhaps of closer ties between Beijing and Washington. Well, the U.S. ambassador to the UN putting Syria on notice.
To Assad and the Syrian government, you have no friends in the world after your horrible actions. The United States is watching your actions very closely. The days of your arrogance and disregard of humanity are over. Your excuses will no longer be heard. I suggest you look at this vote very carefully and heed this warning.
Eric Shawn's live from the United Nations with more. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Shannon. There were harsh words for Russia from U.S. Ambassador Nikki Haley. It was a searing indictment of Moscow as she questioned Russia's continued support of Bashar al-Assad and its continued denial that the Syrian regime used chemical weapons. And for an eighth time, the Russian ambassador raised his hand and vetoed yet another Syrian resolution. That resolution condemned the chemical attacks, as well as called on a UN investigation of the Sharad air base. It said that UN investigators should have access to the flight logs, records, and interviews with Syrian military officials. During the Security Council meeting, Ms. Haley not only chastised Russia, but also Iran, and suggested the U.S. would retaliate again if Assad used chemical weapons in what she calls barbaric and vicious attacks. And she began her presentation with a very vivid and personal case of Abdul Yusuf, the heartbreaking story of the man who lost 22 members of his family who were wiped out in the chemical attack and had to bury his twin 9-month-old babies. Looking directly at the deputy Russian ambassador, Haley asked Moscow to, quote, join the civilized world.
Russia said no to a resolution that would have helped promote peace in Syria. Russia once again has chosen to side with Assad, even as the rest of the world, including the Arab world, overwhelmingly comes together to condemn this murderous regime.
Well, the final vote for the resolution was 10-4-2 against Russia and Bolivia. But China, as we noted, abstained. Observers say that is a big win for U.S. diplomacy because China routinely sides with Russia, and Beijing has voted against these Syrian resolutions in the past. Meanwhile, the deputy ambassador from Moscow, Vladimir Savkhanov, continued to deny Assad has chemical weapons, and he called for an investigation of last week's U.S. missile strike.
This strike was carried out in violation of international norms and without the Security Council sanction. Accepting the Western Troika draft would have meant legitimizing this activity, which from the viewpoint of international law and common sense is something that's completely unacceptable.
Well, Savkhanov plans to introduce his own resolution, but there is no word on when that could be. Shannon, back to you.
All right, Eric Shawn, live at the UN. Thank you.